The same.
Roll call.
Here.
Mr. Frente,
Here.
Mr. Nicastro,
Here.
Mr. Walsh, Mrs. Labow, Mr. Roman.
Here. Let the record reflect that Ms. Labow is excused. Okay, our first item up for agenda is the presentation for the Mount Olive softball 10U girls. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You want to come up with me, Alex?
Well, we'll have the announcer with it.
Good evening, everyone. I want to congratulate you girls on an incredible season, an incredible run. We're all very proud of the job that you did this year. When it was brought to my attention, I had no idea that you guys had been so successful this year, and I was absolutely amazed that there was such little press in Mount Olive, because we all would have been behind your effort 100%. My understanding is that you guys won the Babe Ruth State Tournament and then went on to the 2012 Mid-Atlantic Regionals. And I know that Council President Alex Roman has long been a supporter of Mount Olive Baseball and Softball Association, especially the softball side, and he coaches as well. And we wanted to take this opportunity this evening to recognize your efforts this year, and hopefully again next year you'll be back with the same accomplishments, if not more. So I'm going to call your names out, and I'd ask that you'd come up as I do that, and we'll hand you a certificate, and then I'm going to want you to stay up here so that we can take a big group picture at the end. Okay? So the first certificate I have is for Anna Callahan. Jessica Galt.
Stay right up here, honey. Honey, stay right here.
Yeah, just stay right up there. Just that's it. Isabel Hanlon. Lauren James. And I apologize if I mispronounce this. Aaliyah Lloyd. Caitlin Pettinger. Okay, Isabella Salafia. And Charlotte Salafia. Leah Schmidt. Alyssa Segnello. And Nicole Tamouche. Lindsay Walter. And then I have the coaches, Manager Paul Segnello, Coach Matt Callahan, Coach Stephen Schmidt, and Coach Joe Tamouche. And I would ask one of the coaches to perhaps come up and tell us a little bit about your season, and so you can educate us. If you want to just come up here for Paul.
It's been an incredible season for these girls. We started back in February with indoor practices, and very unexpected season, but extremely gratifying. They won 2 local tournaments, which was in Long Valley and Kittatinny. We placed in the Rockaway tournament, came in first place in Summer League, and also won the states, and then went on to win the regionals, and were undefeated throughout those the entire Babe Ruth tournament trail. So just a tremendous job, and we're so proud of them, and can't wait to start again next season.
That's great.
Resolution that's required for the Bud Lake ladder truck. All right, gentlemen. Well, John.
I could probably give a segue in this. As you know, we've been trying to get a successful bid for the Bud Lake fire truck. And this morning at 10 o'clock, we opened bids, and we received what appears to be a responsive and responsible bid. It's at the attorneys right now for legal review, and the initial documents. It appears on first glance that everything is there, but again, we have to wait for legal to say that everything's compliant. The decision before council tonight is that this was funded through 2 prior ordinances, I think 6-2012 and 33-2011, if my memory serves me correctly. and that is in the total amount of $900,000. Now, the bid that came in today was for $949,000 and change. So the proposal from administration, if you so desire to fund this, is to amend Ordinance 33-2011, which can be done at the August 21st meeting on first reading. Second reading would be September 4th, and then it would become effective 20 days after publication, and then we would offer a resolution to award the bid at the October 2nd meeting. Now, all of that brings us within the 60 days limitation under the local public contracts law, but that's the administrative part, and with that segue, I'll turn it over to the fire department if they want to add anything.
But, Sean, I have a couple, well, I guess I'll leave my question for them. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to give some further background as to what had happened. Originally, we thought we were going to be able to purchase a already built machine and save the town considerable dollars by doing so. When we went out to bid, we had gotten back an unresponsive bid from the manufacturer, which took exception generally to the bid package, which forced us to reject the bid. During the interim time frame, and we knew it was going to be tight, the machine that we were hoping to purchase was sold to a third party, which left us in a position where we were forced to go back out to bid. The machine that we had originally wanted was no longer available, and we're getting a comparable machine. I assume it's comparable. It's costing us a little bit more money, but that is the reason why there is an additional cost associated with the machine. It's not that we went out and added additional equipment, it's just that the machine that we thought we were going to get at a discount is not available.
So if I understand that correctly, when we originally came up with this price, we were assuming it was going to be a discounted price?
It was on one particular as-built machine that was
as-built?
available. And because we couldn't award the bid legally, the machine was no longer available.
And the machine that, the bid that came in, I assume is to the same exact specs as we had originally requested?
Fairly close, yes.
I apologize. A name?
Kevin Lonnie, Bud Lake. One of the, what had happened was, since we had to go back and redo the bid, like the mayor said, we didn't really add any more frills or anything to the truck. It's just that this piece that was done was discounted simply because different vendors that work with this manufacturer, you know, they wanted their name out, and that's what happens when demo rigs are built. You know, they put it out there so everybody can see, so they can try to sell them, and you know, so they discount a little bit to entice people to, you know, and you know, unfortunately, New Jersey's a tough place to bid anything because the laws are a little bit wacky. So we couldn't get that discounted piece, so we had to start again. And we've been working on this project for well over a year and a half. And when we first came and asked for the money, you know, sometimes things are over. You know, we thought that 900 was a responsible number, and through a lot of stress and a lot of hard work, unfortunately, that's not the case. And you know, when we had to go redo the truck, you know, there was a little more money, and but the truck it's just as solid, just as well built as the other one. It's just that, you know, price increases happen,
And this one's being custom built, right? It's not already
Yes.
built?
yes. Some of the features is we didn't want to buy something that after 10 years we had to throw in the dumpster. So, you know, the truck is all stainless steel. You know, we wanted something that had to last.
What's the projected
we've-
life expectancy of this?
This one, the life expectancy is at least 25 to 30 years.
How old is the one that we currently have?
Yeah.
Mr. Nacashra, you had some questions?
Yeah, just a question for the council itself. We had budgeted 900,000. I'm not familiar. Where does the additional money come from if we change the ordinance? How does that?
Sherry?
usually keep some extra money in the event of an emergency and down payment money, so I have that, and then the rest, so 5% will be the down payment, 95% is going to be debt that we authorize, and we'll have to obviously pay back.
Okay.
And is there any possibility you think that if we go back out that we'll get somebody to come in under that price?
Chances are no.
Chances are no. What has happened since you said we've been working on this for a year? How is it?
Yeah, over a year and a half.
How's our current truck been holding out during that time?
We've been taking very good care of it.
And once approved, when do we expect delivery of that truck?
Yeah, 280 days is the what's in the bid.
And are we confident that our current truck, ladder truck, will be able to hold out till then?
We have no choice. We will do everything that we can to make it last.
Just for the record, Alex, I had asked the mayor why the increase of the $49,000, and I got the answer that was given to the public just now.
Does anybody else have any questions? No comments? Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Kevin, I know it's always tough for you guys to come back, and for over the past couple of years, you really haven't gotten what you've asked for every time. And the ladder truck, of course, was a bone of contention, I guess, for some folks, and that either A, didn't believe that you really needed it, and from my standpoint, public safety, it's hard to put a price tag really on the safety of property and personnel. And I know that ladder truck, you guys have babied it, you've repaired it, you've spent, I guess, $70,000, I think, the 1 year we spent on replacements on that thing.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are going to do everything in your power. Coming in 5% over approximately, what you had anticipated a year and a half ago when you presented this to us, I can understand in the mayor's explanation of, exactly what had happened, which I know, Kevin, you've already informed me of. You've got my support for this. It's something that the township needs. I know you and I have spoken. I think I've even spoken with Flanders, with Greg, and you almost want to go to the ITC and the rest of those companies and say, you know what, these ladder trucks really service you guys more than they do the general public in Mount Olive, except for those homes that are set far back that you have to get. It'd be nice if they could pony up a little bit of money.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mount Olive is not Mayberry anymore.
That's
And
correct.
we are very busy. We've averaged, over the last 4 years, we've averaged at least between 500 and 550 runs. And currently, that ladder truck, it is the oldest first due piece in Morris County. So a lot of other towns have moved on, and we've held off as long as we could. And I promise you, we will not get cheated on this new one.
I trust in you guys. Thanks,
I
Kevin.
just checked our call runs. We're 60 calls ahead of last year.
Already.
Mis-
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Mania?
Kevin, what happens to the old truck? Do we trade that in? What happens to it?
What'll happen is when we get close, I will talk to Sean, and we'll probably try to put it out for auction or for sale. Try to get something out of it.
What do you think it's worth? Rough guess.
Well, what I was hoping for is maybe 40, 50,000, but the reality is probably half of that.
Mr. Canning?
Yeah, he's in the ballpark. If you go on Gov Deals, you'll see, your best buyers are generally towns in a little south of here, Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, that just don't have the wherewithal as communities to get this. So they'll try to get in, and he's pretty accurate. Prices go between 5
Yeah, the last
maybe
pumper,
30,000.
the last pumper that we sold, that went to a village in Wisconsin, if you can believe a village in Wisconsin, and that's their first due piece. So, there are places in this country that are almost like third world. It's a shame, but that's the reality.
And then when that does get sold, the funds go to,
I just got to ask that, Alex.
like,
Where do those funds go when the truck is sold?
It's your truck. It's up to you.
Pardon?
I said
goes
it's
into
your
our
truck.
general
It's
fund.
up to you
Yes.
guys.
Sherry?
There have been times where we've done resolutions and we've authorized the proceeds to go back to them. It really varies. It's basically been your call. Ray knows what I mean. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I've spoken to the fire department, and I'm inclined to just have the money go back to the fire department at this point. We've underfunded them for a number of years based upon our budget, and that would be my first response, is to allow the money to go back to the fire department.
Mr.
You
Perkins?
can rest assured that we will use that money to outfit the truck.
I know how busy you guys are.
Because you guys need uniforms, don't you? You need some of the firefighting equipment. At least when I toured the facility, I saw that you had some stuff that needed to be replaced.
That'll actually be in next week.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly agree with the mayor. I know past EMS as well as fire departments, we've let you guys utilize the funding. Sometimes I think it's appropriate, especially with the fiasco we went through with the underground storage tank. You guys pick up $5,000 to $20,000 for that, then I'm more inclined to say keep it.
We appreciate the support, and, you know, like I said, we're taxpayers just like everybody else, and we don't like to see wasteful spending, but, you know, so, you know, like I said, I could assure you guys and the public that all this money is absolutely 100% well spent. I've been doing this for 22 years now, and I've been at this podium many times. I don't like asking for money, but it's going for the right cause, and I truly believe that right here.
I mean, I for one, when that number was first floated out, was required, I mean, it was, you know, needless to say, I'm sure everybody heard, it was a scary number. And, you know, but it is unfortunately a need that is required. There appears to be no other avenue that would be able to not only get another apparatus that will provide for the safety of the residents. So without hearing any opposition, I guess we're going to move forward, and we'll introduce that ordinance at the next meeting. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Okay, the next item up for discussion, we're going to go to fleet maintenance analysis. Mr. Kenny? Fleet? Okay. Hang on a second. Can everybody see that, or do we have to lights it on?
How about making it the big screen there?
I can't see it with the
Can't see
glasses.
anything.
Just can't read it.
Is this like an eye test? Do I have to
Yeah,
cover
I
one eye?
can't see.
All I saw was Sean Canning is the best. That's what it looks like from here.
That's that
There we
little
go.
flash that you get
Now
every
it's
once in a
nice.
while.
There we go. You can see it. Well, I did.
All right.
Do you have cheat sheets to go along with this, or?
Should be the backup. Yeah. It's right out now. Beat each other up on a lot of thought on this. We went in with the idea of basically two questions. One, is it more profitable to keep our fleet management outsourced the way we have been doing it, or is it cheaper to go in-house? And also, how do we manage our fleet? We have an aging fleet. How do we, you know, it's all these trucks and garbage trucks and vehicles that we have in Mount Olive, they cost a fair amount of money. How do we best get the most useful life out of this, and how do we replace them without spending too much of the taxpayers' money? So those are the questions we went into this analysis, and we spent about 4 to 5 months on this. This is the conclusions we came to, and the proposal to you tonight. Basically, you know, what is our current status? And the analysis was conducted to find out whether we keep our prime concern of our fleet management, do we keep it outsourced, or do we bring it in-house? And at the end, our conclusion, we could save in the first year approximately a little more than $50,000 by bringing it in-house as opposed to keeping it outsourced. And in subsequent years, upwards of $150,000. The first year a little bit less, but the savings have progressed based upon that a little bit higher than 2016. So just some background. Currently, Mount Olive operates or owns approximately 152 vehicles. That's everything from our large mowers up in Turkey Brook to our sanitation vehicles to our large dumps to police cars. It's a large fleet. You know, traditionally, we've outsourced fleet maintenance going back to at least 2006, at least 9 years ago. That's been our traditional mode of operations. And again, I'm not philosophically inclined one way or the other, whether all outsourced or all in-house. It's just a play-by-play, and sometimes outsourcing is better, sometimes in-house is better, depending, you know, follow the money. In this case, we feel it can be done more efficiently and less expensively in-house. And we'll go through the presentation and tell you why we feel that way. The other question we looked at was organization and purchase. Currently, council gets bombarded every year during budget. We have a decentralized purchasing system. So every department comes in here and hits you up and says, well, our fleet is this, or this fleet is this, and these are the kind of cars we need. We want to try to get away on this question, away from the decentralized approach we've had, and basically having the departments go against each other where, you know, we prioritize a bigger slice of the pie to, you know, DPW versus police or vice versa. So each department has been left to justify its own purchases. What we want to do as a committee is take that away and get everybody's user input, but have kind of a centralized user command, a replacement schedule, and how best to allocate scarce resources. It'll take away from the departments coming in one by one in February and March during our budget hearings, and this way you get one authoritative voice from a central user committee as to how best to replace our fleet. That's one of our recommendations. The other thing we want to go to is on how we operate day to day. We want to make data-driven decisions, very similar to what we do with iWorks. In-house fleet management conducts repairs by adherence to performance measures and best practices. Step 2, this should be a routine day-to-day operation in Mount Olive. Data derived from fleet maintenance software forwarded to administration for analysis. That's for your day-to-day. Longer term, to a central user committee. Accountability. Anybody that's, you know, I'm sure you've seen since the mayor took over, we've stressed accountability with the department heads, more efficient operations. Not that we don't have accountability now, but we want to really make sure that each department kind of runs its own fleet as if they own it, and be responsible for the fleet line items in there, really see and give them ownership as to where these dollars go and how the vehicles are used. Step 3 in the day-to-day data-driven decisions, the user group, as I referred to, as we get data from a better software package, from better data input, the central user committee reviews the data and makes sound decisions as to purchase priorities and use fiscally sound management on how we move forward. Record keeping, what is measured is managed. Currently, that was one thing we experienced going through this, Tim and I don't think we were really happy with the data we got in this analysis. It was very time consuming coming back. It wasn't quick. And it wasn't as thorough as we really wanted. We think we can do a better job. And again, data drives everything. And it drives budgets, it drives, you know, everything and how we operate. We think we can do a better job. Similar to the iWork system, provide data feedback to the fleet user group, ensure decisions are data driven, not emotional decisions. Hold department heads accountable for fleet budgets. We may incorporate this quarterly and you know, especially our larger fleet reviews. Make sure, you know, we're not getting in any abuse of equipment, or if we are, we can identify it quicker and be able to address it in a very quick fashion before a vehicle goes south on us. Financial management, the intent is to treat the in-house fleet garage as a separate in-house service provider. What we'd like to do as part of this is, I'll give you an example. Currently, if somebody brings in a car from health or one of the inspectors, they take planning's car. Planning hasn't had a car in weeks. You know, there's just a constant search for, you know, a lot of times you end up using your own car. I'd like to have 2 older vehicles as pool vehicles. You pull a vehicle in, whether it's a inspector or whoever, pull it into the fleet garage, it's due for preventive maintenance, it's due for a repair, bring it in, sign out the pool vehicle, they get a call, as soon as it's done, hopefully within an hour or 2, your vehicle's ready, back in. That repair is documented, the cost is documented, and it's billed to that department's line item in the fleet budget. Department reviews it, they can identify whether we're using vehicles, where our costs are, or whether a vehicle has to be replaced. And added accountability, isolate costs, provide for long-term fleet effective management. Asset management, current fleet is getting older, that comes higher maintenance costs possibly. How do we get more out of vehicles? How do we keep it going? Initiate a comprehensive and ongoing effort to identify vehicles whose maintenance costs exceed the benefit of keeping a vehicle. Identify an overall replacement schedule. We have one, we want to make it better. Empower the user committee to recommend to council the replacement plan as opposed to individual departments or lobbying for vehicles. Again, this is the staffing and flow of information. We already have DPW director on staff, obviously, administrative assistant. We're not looking for any extra administrative staff. We're going to expand that person's duties. What we are looking for, and I'll provide the numbers in a little bit, we feel it justifies a fleet supervisor and 2.5 to 3 full-time mechanics. And in a little bit, I'll show you how we get that number for a staffing allocation. administration fleet user group, and this is just another graph showing the day-to-day data analysis, management feedback as to how we operate our fleet. Long-term, quarterly, long-term plans go to that fleet user group. They in turn dump it right back into our fleet and day-to-day operations, and that's how we purchase and maintain our fleet. Number of proposals to improve our performance. Power fleet maintenance to include asset management, replacement, and planning. Basically, the head of our fleet garage is going to have a very big say in the central user group. They're going to know the vehicles intimately. They're going to know very much what should be replaced, what is, even though the age-wise may be older, maybe it's very sound and it's been well-maintained, so we don't have to spend money on that. Very big voice in that. Replace outsourced fleet services, bring in-house. Establish financial management tools. Revise vehicle replacement plans. Adopt a point system. I think in the appendix in the document I provided you, we have a sample point system to identify vehicles when they're becoming no longer cost-effective to maintain. Implement software system that can identify billable hours by mechanics. Offer to provide fleet services to the Board of Education. We've had preliminary discussions with the Board of Ed. They are very receptive to possibly using our, we're to use an in-house garage. And also, if it's successful, we look at some other towns as shared services, additional sources of revenue. Develop an annual business plan. I already require from all departments a monthly report. This would be no different, and I'd like to see an annual business plan. We would set goals, expenditure margins, and vehicle replacements as part of it. Current fleet status and future staffing. Just real briefly, the way we measure vehicles as to how many labor hours is called a VEU, a vehicle equivalent unit. We got this from the Air Force. The Air Force seems to have, years ago, come up with the best practice on this, and I'll give you an example. A vehicle equivalent unit is how many labor hours a vehicle requires over the course of 1 year. So an average sedan, Chevy Impala or something like that, will require about 12.5 labor hours per year just in general maintenance. So based upon that, we were able to identify the VEUs for our entire fleet. A police vehicle, they get very, very hard mileage. They're about 2.5 VEUs per vehicle per year. So it's about 31 labor hours going to a police car. They just have extremely high and hard mileage on them. So based upon that, we were able to quantify exactly what our fleet requirements are. Again, a sedan is 1 VEU. What you see there's a little Jeep Liberty. It's kind of like what our inspectors have in building and health. 1.5 VEUs. Police car is 2.5. You know, a backhoe, larger piece of equipment, is going to have 5 VEUs. And the large dump trucks and garbage trucks are about 10 VEUs. So based upon that, we were able to calculate what our VEUs are by type. So 37 VEUs for a police vehicle times 12.5 labor hours. That's how many labor hours per year it's going to take to run that police fleet. We have 2 vans with 2 VEUs, mowers 13 VEU totals, other equipment, pickup 27 VEUs, large truck 32, sedans 14, and SUVs 11 VEUs. I think the grand total is 7. Just to give you a brief overview by department, what our fleet looks like. Health department has 12% of our total vehicle fleet. Planning has 1%. Tax assessor has 1%. Public buildings and grounds 16%. That includes mowers. We included everything in this. Fire marshal 1%. Building 2%. Water and sewer is 8% of our fleet. Roads 20%. Again, they have additional equipment other than pickup trucks and dump trucks. Sanitation 9%. And police at the largest at 30%. Mount Olive Township fleet by fleet age. The standard benchmark, which I got from Mercury Associates, they're kind of the foremost consultant out there in America right now. The average fleet age they recommend is about 6 years. That should be your average fleet from a vehicle that's 12 years old to a vehicle that's right off the line. So your average is 6. Our fleet is a little bit above that. Water and sewer, the average age is 8 years. Roads is a winner. Their average age is 12 years on their vehicle. Sanitation is 9. Police 9.1. Fire marshal is the other end of the spectrum. He just got a new vehicle, so that brings his average age down quite a bit. 5 years. Public buildings and grounds 9 years. Tax assessor 8. Planning 11. And health at 11. Cost of average yearly service from 2006 to 2010, we spent an average of $765,000 on fleet maintenance services. First vehicle fleet services, our current vendor, the average for the last 2 years is $746,000. We feel we can do it for $683,000. That includes capital investment the first year. That number will go down the second year. For staffing levels, bear with me on this. This goes back to the VEU. One employee availability, whenever we look at staffing, and I got through this back in budget time with Chief Spitzer. One employee is available 2,080 hours per year. Take off their benefit time, sick, vacation, what have you, training. About 70% of that is available every year on any employee. 1,456 hours are available on that employee. So that's our relief factor. That's what we have available. Next, we calculate the VEUs. Now, we went through before, Mount Olive has 152 vehicles thereabout. The VEUs come out to a total of 454, or 5,681 labor hours are required to maintain our fleet. Now, we know one person, one mechanic is 1,456, so we just do a simple division. We divide the total labor hours required by the labor hours available to one mechanic. So we came out to 3.901 mechanics, or one supervisor and 3 mechanics. Again, we also offer the option of one supervisor, maybe 2 mechanics, and 1 part-time mechanic. We recommend funding higher, but perhaps staffing lower initially. You can always increase staffing, but it's difficult to reduce funding once you go the other way around. Estimated cost sheet, obviously personnel in any endeavor in the township, largest driver is our salary cost of benefits. That's kind of what we think. Mechanic salaries we based upon the maintenance technician of the Mafia contract. That's for the line personnel. The supervisor would be outside of the contract. We estimated supervisor salary should. One of the intriguing things we're kicking around, and we'd be looking for feedback, is require fleet garage to meet established benchmarks. So maybe we tie part of the supervisor's salary into performance measures. If they don't meet performance as a unit, then you don't get your bonus. And maybe we introduce that in our upcoming negotiations as well with the line fleet mechanics. This way it's a team effort. Pay scale is indicative of similarly held positions through benchmarking. We contacted other towns. It's about the going rate. I got one last slide, and it'll show the increases in outsources. We gauged it at 3% of increased costs. So the first vehicle services is $746 this year. We're estimating to come in with about a 3% increase next year, or anybody else. The CPI out there is about 3.18%, so that's what we gauged that on. In comparing our own, we wanted to make sure we were as accurate as possible. So, in estimating our future costs, parts, supplies, anything that is non-salary, we gauge it at the same 3% increases. We're not accused of fudging numbers, or it doesn't seem that way. Salary, we increased on our end at 2%. Now, that's probably being generous, but I'd rather gear towards the higher number, and that's reflective of the municipal levy cap. So that's how we gauge the numbers you're about to say. Estimated savings in 2013. The top number, it's kind of hard to see, is first vehicles built for us for next year. It would be $746,014. So we feel we can do it with capital investment at $683,000, and we would realize a savings of approximately $62,000 in 2013. Going into the following year, a 3% increase on first vehicle. We estimate a bill of $768,000 to keep it outsourced. We feel we can do it for $638,000. Now that is a decrease because our capital investment of starting up the garage would no longer be there. That's why we feel that number is lower. Second year savings, $129,000 if we were to bring it in-house. Going into 2015, again, you'll see first vehicle at a 3% increase, $791,000. First vehicle is $654,000. In-house is $654,000, and our savings at $137,000 in year 3. And finally, in 2016, again, the same premises. We feel we could do it for $669,000, approaching the savings of $145,000 in that year. So, over a 4-year period, we feel we can approach over $500,000 in savings and get a better service. And with all that talking, now that I've finally spoken into the microphone, I'll see if Timmy has anything to add before we get any questions.
I think you covered it very well. I like it.
Do you want me to go through the whole thing again?
No, but slow down, slow down.
It'll never happen.
How has First Vehicle Service been providing their service as of right now?
They've been providing adequate, but not to the level that the town expects.
Because if I recall, last time they came in before, they were asking for a raise. unfortunately, the answer I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, that they were performing well. So only lately am I starting to hear that, what was the phrase I heard, you know, they go into the garage and it's like, you know, a black hole. So has their performance deteriorated significantly since the, you know, first couple years that they were here? And how long is it actually taking to get vehicles, you know, once they're put in there, to come back?
Depends on the vehicle. A lot of what they do is outsource the vehicles for some of the major repairs, which we're looking to do in-house. I wouldn't say walking in there is walking into a black hole. That's not the case. Equipment's still getting repaired. It's still getting rolled out. As I said, right now they're providing us with an adequate service.
Okay.
We feel with the proper staffing and more control, we can provide an excellent service to the township.
I do got to add, I was not satisfied with the data in the research that I had back. It should be at your fingertips. Similar to
Yeah.
iWorks. Again, I know I'm somewhat impatient sometimes, but it took longer than I was satisfied with.
Some of the metrics, I remember I was having a conversation with you as far as one VEU being 12 hours. I'm trying to make the analogy of, you know, the average consumer that has a sedan. If their vehicle is getting 12 hours worth of work every year, it's time to get rid of that vehicle, because that would probably come out to about $1,500 to $1,600 a year. So I think we might be overestimating there, and that's why I'm hoping that if we do go with this, that our staffing levels would be one supervisor and maybe 2.5 techs, because they won't be needing that as much. As far as on the bigger vehicles, unfortunately, you know, I don't have, you know, I don't know, have experience to say whether 30 hours is something that an average dump truck will see. But if, you know, in the average lifespan of a vehicle for the health department or something like that, we're talking oil change, brakes, and as such.
Well,
But the occasional breakdown may be 4 or 5 hours worth of work.
You've got to go back to the slide that shows the age of our vehicles. We have an aging fleet.
And what's the average mileage? Because age is one thing, and then there's
Mileage for us isn't everything, because we're a local organization. It's more hours on the vehicle. We're not over the road. We don't do hundreds of thousands of miles unless we get the vehicle more past 10 years or so, and then we're exceeding that.
And
The
then
older equipment,
on the non-police vehicles, are they breaking down? You know, overheating.
Healths are. It is something it's a future discussion when it comes to vehicle replacement, and they've been trying to keep costs down, and it's a merit to them, but they've been taking the habit of taking old police cars. Now, some of those cars, they aren't worth taking the black and white off. It's you know, you're picking up a transmission or an engine that's going to be blown because it's had hard mileage on it. 100,000 mile police car is a 200,000 mile everybody else car.
I agree.
So in that aspect, I know health goes down a lot, but that's primarily the reason.
And on some of the estimates here, to start off here, on garage supplies, I think you're greatly underfunded at 1,000. That's you know, you're talking rags, chemicals, and all that stuff. You know, just to use myself as a comparison, you're going to be easily $500 to $700 a month. On the vehicle parts, I don't know how you could come up with that number unless First Vehicle would have given you at least a breakdown. Hey, this is how much we spent on parts, because extrapolating from our estimated parts would indicate probably along the lines that Fleet Vehicle Service should have been charging us about $400,000 to $500,000. So seeing as that they're charging us $700,000, I can only extrapolate from that parts are going to be. So I think I would just caution us to estimating low on what it's going to cost us in parts, because that's one figure. Unless you get from them, you're not gonna know for sure. So I'd rather see you guys estimate higher on that.
And that's part of our frustration, and I think I shared it with you, the difficulty in getting the common parts list back, and it wasn't
Right.
wasn't even worth the Excel sheet that it came in on.
And the on the fleet maintenance software, that figure hasn't been revised up, because I know on my own investigation, unfortunately I was getting numbers between $10,000 and $20,000 for software to manage the fleet.
Yeah, I think we have under our capital one-time in-house startup cost of $10,500
That would
for diagnostic
for
equipment.
your diagnostic equipment, which is separate from your shop fleet maintenance software.
Yeah, and then we've got the upgrades for the out of the operating.
Yeah, if you're referring to something like iWorks, we're pretty comfortable. We can get a software policy such as iWorks for less than 2,000.
And that'll be able to track everything that you do on a vehicle. In other words, so if you need to pull in on police vehicle 82.
Yes. Yes, that same
so
software I use.
So they'll be able to add on a module or something like that akin.
Yeah, they'll be able to add on a
Okay,
module
so as
on our
long
current
as-
one.
as long as
Not that
that
we're going to go
figure's
with
correct.
iWorks, we'll price it out, obviously, with the quotation system, but I do have experience with that, and I know their fleet module is less than 2,000.
Okay.
Or it was at the time that was 2 years ago.
And then, yeah, I would just make sure that all that, obviously you'll do that to make sure that it has all the data that you're looking to ascertain from there. And then on the diagnostic equipment, that's if, I would just bump that up another 10. Because you're joking, just your regular diagnostic is anywhere from 8 to 10, and then everything else. I don't know if you would maybe take an inventory of what First Vehicle's using right now, and just start writing down all the stuff that you're gonna end up having to buy. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Sean. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
I have, just a couple concerns, and I've been here long enough. I think when I started here, we were in-house, and we moved to out. We've had issues and problems, and every year there's been some sort of an issue, regardless of who it was, Fleet Services or Penske, it didn't matter. We've talked about whether it was cheaper, and everybody can run a spreadsheet and do, as we all know. For me, I'm not overly uncomfortable nor comfortable looking at your in-house staffing costs. Personally, I don't know that I want to look at paying $400,000 a year just in salaries and benefits for 4 pretty much mechanics and 1 supervisor. Be that as it may, I don't think that until we make the decision as a council to either go forward with this and give it a shot, will we ever really know? Because I think the records historically, Tim, I know sitting up here through budget hearings, and Alex has asked for them, and he's been there, and he owns his own garage, which, he has some better understanding of costs in the repair, and vehicle maintenance. I think if we decide as a council to move forward, that we're not going to know probably for the first year, Sean, whether you really have any savings or not.
You're right.
You're projecting that it'll be, Alex has already pointed out some spots that he think you may be underestimating, which will bring your number up higher, and then it's inevitably, we could sit here all night and come up with different numbers and probably come up with Fleet Services number. So I think from my standpoint, I would like to see it in-house. I think we'd have better control of it in-house. I think the council would be able during budget time, when we're having the budgetary hearings and we talk about fleet maintenance, that they would be in-house personnel. We would have yourself and Mr. Quinn here. We could ask those questions instead of Tim not getting those answers that he's been looking for, that the council's been asking for the past 6 years, 8 years. So from my standpoint, I support you and the mayor in moving forward to bringing this in-house. Obviously, asking, that you guys look at things, finding the appropriate salaries for people. I don't want you to build up salaries, maintenance is maintenance, and, some people only last 30 days and then you have to fire them,
Personnel are always your biggest asset and biggest challenge.
Exactly. So, from my standpoint, I support you and the mayor on this. I think it would be a good idea. I think it would give us better control. I think our vehicles will be turned around. Unfortunately, I talked to the folks out on the street, meaning our employees, and obviously I can't name any of them because I don't want you guys going after them, but they've all had some issues, with vehicle maintenance over the years, and it didn't matter who the company was, and it wasn't whether it was in-house or not. They've never been satisfied with the turnaround time, nor the effectiveness or the quality of a lot of the repair work. So, again, you guys have my support on this. Obviously you need the majority of the council. I don't think we're gonna have a for-real answer to know what it is until, if I approve it now and you did it within the next 3 months, I think this time next year you'd be able to sit down and say, you know what, Ray, yes, we're really on target for where we were, or we underestimated a little bit.
We hope, we tried our best due diligence, but that's part of the annual business plan. We hope to present the council a yearly picture of, this is what we hope to achieve, and yes, we achieved it. Hopefully, we're not here saying this is what we hope to achieve and we didn't achieve it. Not a
Best
big
laid
fan of
plans
failure,
are
but
mice and men. The best laid plans are mice and men, Sean. I understand your projections, and I'm kind of the same way. I'm bottom line driven. My fellow council members been here long enough know I'm not a line by line guy. I want to see the bottom line savings. So at the end of the year, was it cheaper than $746,000? If it was, I'll applaud you. If it was more, then I'll ask you to go back and find out why and make the corrections.
and that's fair.
Thank you, Sean.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I actually have a question for you also, Sean. And I have to say that I agree with Ray in terms of not really knowing ultimately what it's going to cost, but I think that we can all agree, sitting up here, that the review of the fleet services is an attempt to save money, and hopefully this will save money. But let's assume at the end of the day that it doesn't save money, or that it's problematic in terms of us actually doing the work. There's nothing which prevents us at some point down the road of going back and outsourcing this. Whatever equipment we purchase likely would be purchased from us by whoever comes in. I think that's the way that it was handled originally, so that the risk that we're really taking is not a huge risk in terms of our capital outlay, correct? Isn't that the way that it worked the last time?
Yes.
Right,
So
so,
basically, we have a company will come in, and whatever equipment's ours or that we've purchased, they have the right to purchase off of us.
right, so, I mean, the projected savings are significant. The actual savings is yet to be determined based upon factors that we really can't 100% quantify as we sit here today, but the risk is small compared to the amount that we potentially that we could potentially save through this measure. That's why I think it's a good way to go.
Mr. Nicastro?
Yeah, I'm just the same. Basically, I feel it is the benefits would outweigh the risks, I think, at this point anyway. Being in control, I'm always someone that's in favor of being in control of things, and I think we will have a better control of it. I wasn't here long enough as other council people, obviously, to know the history prior. But bringing it in-house and going through the numbers that we'll have to trust and analyze at the end of the year, I think the risks, the rewards will outweigh the risks by moving it in-house and taking control of it.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Alex. I just wanted to finish up a little bit on the mayor's statement. My only concern, and is not so much on the capital, is on the 4 employees that you end up hiring. Because if this falls flat on its behind, then you're dealing with human beings who have now set themselves and their families based upon an income that in 4 years or whatever this doesn't work out, and now you guys flip it over and decide to go back out to outsource it again. Those people don't historically get absorbed into the system. And obviously through our attrition and what we're looking at, obviously streamlining in government, I just caution,
Yeah, I'd like to put some skin in the game on their end, and again, that's what I mentioned with negotiations and tying benchmarks and performance metrics to a unit's performance. It's going to be in their own best interest to run a successful garage.
Exactly, it's just, my understanding is the same as the mayor. We won't know, and the lost benefit, if we talk about capital equipment, is not a tremendous amount of money, but it's the psychological effect of people's lives that we start to deal with. And we're looking at 3 or 4 employees here that we're going to be bringing on. I don't want their lives to be unjustifiably disrupted because we over or underestimated something.
Mr. Mania?
I believe we need to think positive. I think if we work hard at it, it can work. So let's think positive and move forward with this.
We wouldn't be sitting here right now if we weren't confident we could make this work. We've been over it and over it for 4 months. We've hammered the crap.
I'm sure you
hammered the heck
have.
out of this.
We had no preconceived notions. Sherry beat these numbers up.
I mean,
Alex was a huge help. The mayor.
presentation is just,
And if we didn't have the conclusion that we didn't think we'd be successful, I think we would have shelved it and said it's not going to work. We wouldn't have come here.
He wouldn't have shown up in that shirt unless he
No,
really
no.
thought he could do it.
Mr. Mayor?
2 quick comments. Number one, when I first took office, Tim and I had this discussion, and really, in essence, what we're doing is getting better. We're going to get better service, and we're taking the profit out of the service. right there is what Tim said. We could probably, even without crunching the numbers, Tim's estimate as to what we would be saving is comparable to what ultimately I see on the screen here. Secondly, with respect to the employees, I think they all have to know, as you said, Sean, that they have skin in the game, and whether it be from a performance perspective and a possibility of a bonus, or they just know that if this is not profitable for the township, that ultimately it's going to be a service which is going to be terminated. So it gives them the incentive to make it profitable. And while I feel very uncomfortable any time that we have to shed employees, the bottom line is that we have fiduciary obligation to the taxpayers, and ultimately, if this is not a profitable move that we're making, those employees will no longer be employed by the town in that capacity if they can't be absorbed either somewhere else in DPW or somewhere else in government as a result of other employees leaving and the need to replace them, or if they can't be ultimately absorbed by the outsourcing of the service itself.
I mean, I, for one, if it comes in that the savings weren't as much as we were projected, but the overall service that we end up getting is significantly improved, then I'll be happy. I just want us to also just bear in mind that these employees are going to come with future pension costs if they stay on, so that's something to think about. I would, based on the size of the fleet, I'd like to see us first start off with a supervisor and 2 mechanics, because based on the size of the fleet, I don't see how they cannot. I mean, granted, I don't have the experience with the big, huge trucks, and I'm pretty sure it takes 2 guys to even take a tire off these things. But just so we don't go full board with 1 and 3, and as such, like I said,
We may come back then come budget time and ask for the higher funding, as you don't have to amend it later, but in staff lower, and then take that funding if we didn't have to use it as a savings.
Well, one thing I have found, if employees work more if they're worked. So if you're overstaffed, they're not going to work as hard, and then when it gets busy, they don't know how to ramp up.
You've also got to be cautious with the heavy equipment, like you said, with the big trucks.
Yeah, you got to.
We're looking at a supervisor, 2 mechanics, and at the least I would ask for would be a mechanic's helper. You've got a big truck that you're working on. We're not looking to outsource this equipment like they're doing in the back. We're looking to fix the majority of this in-house, whatever our capabilities are. That's going to tie up a person and a helper when you're working on a big truck. If I've got 2 mechanics on the floor and we've got to work on a Packer truck, I've got nothing else happening on the other 3 bays. We've got to keep things rolling forward, and we do have to be properly staffed.
And I think that's what that supervisor should be doing also. I mean,
I'm very firm as to what we need and who we need in there to make this work. It's not going to be a crapshoot. We got this very carefully thought out, and we're pretty fixed on the staffing that we need. I can go without 3 full mechanics, but I want a mechanic's helper into place. I know what goes on back in that shop, and I know the work that has to be done.
Yeah, and I would.
You got them running around with big heavy equipment, you'll be looking at workman's comp cases, and we don't even want to get into that.
And I would definitely like to see that at least that supervisor just not be a supervisor and actually somebody who does some.
The supervisor is going to be on the floor the majority of the time. The secretarial work is going to be handled by somebody in-house already. The people that we have planned have already got experience in this level, and we're very pleased with what they do.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I think we should give them the people they're asking for if we're going to make this thing work.
I agree.
All right, well, gentlemen, I believe the consensus of the council, so we move forward. I would just request a double check on that software, because it's not easy. It's not a quick software like to manage a fleet. When I went looking, there weren't that many companies out there that actually are doing the fleet. And when I was given the price, I was astonished when it came in at.
We'll look into it, and we'll be looking for a kickoff January 1st.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and on the MOTV policy, Mr. Canning, do you wish to speak about it, even though Mr. Walsh is not present?
Sure.
I mean, we could always table it to the next meeting.
You may want to, because I know this, Pat was very interested in this and was really heavily involved in the policy.
Mr. Perkins?
Yeah, Mr. President, I would ask that this be tabled off until Mr. Walsh is here, and I believe Mr. Matt O'Keefe, based upon the email he had sent, I think that originally he wanted to come and speak before the council to this matter. So I would like to give all those folks the opportunity
Absolutely.
to be able to come here. You know, if we're going to kick this thing off, I'd like to kick it off right and have everybody say their piece, and let's get it done.
No problem. All right, so we'll put it on for the next meeting. All right. Okay, we're on to resolutions. Does anyone have any questions on the resolutions? Okay, seeing none. And we have that one ordinance discussion on engine braking. Mr. Canning?
Yeah, this is a recommendation from the police department. Unfortunately, Sergeant Van Ness, as you know, was recently retired and was unavailable for this meeting. But this is just in response to various complaints around the township we get, and indeed, I got a request from a neighboring town of Roxbury inquiring about it on the border. There's always a concern about the what's commonly known as the Jake brakes on many of the heavier trucks, and in some of the residential zones in different areas of town, it becomes a real problem for our residents. A lot of towns in the county already have such an ordinance. We asked the police department to develop one, and that's what you see before you. Again, I'm not an expert on this. Sergeant Van Ness certainly is, and he would be back in future meetings if we needed him, but it certainly has administrative support.
And how do we plan on enforcing? Are we gonna, do we have equipment to measure the decibel output, or just by hearing?
Commonly, the police departments were able to get a decibel meter that they can purchase for relatively low cost. If it's contested, that's how they're able to prove it in court over the benchmark decibel level on the Jake brake.
What would be the decibels that it would have to exceed in order to receive a summons?
I don't know off the top of my head right now, Mr. Manning. I'd have to read further in the ordinance and see what it entails.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. This came from the police department, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do we know where the complaints have been coming from?
I'm not privy to what came from in-house. I know of one, since I've been here, that's fairly common, is over on 206 by Mooney's Mountain Road. There's a lot of complaints in that whole area of Drakestown Road, by the gas station, 206, and then across the border. And again, some of those are not our traffic problems. Some of them are Roxbury's, and that has to do with the truck traffic coming down out of their own landfill, capping endeavor they have up on Mooney's Mountain. But we'll get common complaints in the border, whether it's ours or Roxbury's.
Yeah, I mean, I for one would at least like to know the concentration and the number of complaints before we start, passing another law. Because if it's a case where it's isolated to one area, or the complaint is maybe one or two a year,
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't prepared to speak on this tonight. I didn't find out until extremely recently, yesterday, that Sergeant Van Ness was still away on a post, and he would have showed up, retirement or not, but on his post-retirement trip.
And Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, with this, I would like to put this off. I think, and for folks that don't know, I drove a tractor trailer for quite some years, and I wasn't fortunate enough to have a Jake brake. And when those brakes go, you can't stop. So there are times in hills where the Jake brake is a necessity to slow down that truck. And so I'm kind of looking, that's why my question really was, whereabout is all this happening? I mean, if you're going down Antique Hill, I can understand you should have a Jake brake, because that's a long way down. You could burn up the brakes. But if you're on Mount Olive Road, you're coming out of Toll Brothers, and you're heading up toward the Solar Swim Club, there's really not any needs for So maybe there's areas. I would like a little more information, Mr. President, if we could put this off.
Yeah, not a problem. Mr. Ognell?
Jello. It's okay.
Jello, there you go.
When Mr. Van Ness had us take a look at this, my initial concern was the exceptions that were going to be enforced in here or applied here. And as you see, as we drafted it, there is an exception section regarding when we would permit truck drivers to use these brakes. Now, my concern is the enforcement of that. It's very subjective, and the fights that could arise out of somebody using these emergency systems and a police officer saying, well, no, you didn't need to use that emergency system there. Who then interprets that? You know what I mean? So I think having Sergeant Van Ness here would help us to determine that. And I also agree with the comment that was made by Councilman regarding the decibel level. I think it might be wise to put some decibel levels in here to be more specific as to how we're going to enforce it.
Mr. Mania, then Mr. Mayor?
I really have a problem with a police officer telling a professional truck driver as to when he should be able to use his Jake brake and not when he should use it. I have a problem with that.
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just let's table it. It didn't come through the administration directly. We're not prepared to address it. We need Scott Van Ness here to answer all of these questions. I don't think it's an unreasonable ordinance in theory. I can't speak to the specifics of it, and I think that at this point, there's no rush to get this in place, so let's wait until we have the important information that we need to be able to decide whether or not this is something we want to adopt.
All right, so at this time, then I will, whenever administration is ready to bring this back up, you guys can put it back on the agenda.
Yeah, it came as a surprise to both Sean and I that this was on the agenda this evening. Not that I'm trying to pass the buck, because we're ultimately responsible for the agenda as long as it doesn't come through the council. So I apologize that this was on without us being prepared to address it more fully.
No problem. All right, so we're off that. We're on to our first old business. Does anyone have any new business?
Did you want to talk about that resolution, Sean, that Kathy prepared about the lake?
Yeah, the Kathy Murphy has prepared it's a just in case resolution. Recently, we've had a problem with some algae in the you like the title, in the Bud Lake. Our expert feels it is not a significant hazard, and at this time does not need to be treated. However, here's our quandary as to why we have a resolution on for tonight. The summer season's starting to wind down. If the algae does prove to be a problem over the next 2 weeks, we will not be able to treat it without a resolution expending funds out of open space and being able to pay our vendor to treat this algae. So during the next 14 days, if this algae does become a problem, we'd like to have the mechanism in place to at least treat it and keep Bud Lake an active recreation site through the end of the summer. If this algae turns out to be a bloom in the next week or two, we wouldn't be able to address this until August 22nd at the earliest. So that's hence the just-in-case resolution. We don't intend on spending it, but it's a break glass in case of emergency. And again, this is open space funds. We're not allowed to expend them without a resolution from council.
Mr. Nicastro or Ferrante, who's on the lake, and did you, was there any discussion on this and any of the?
No, I just saw the memo today.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it's something that came up relatively quickly. I started getting emails about there being this white substance that people thought was concrete or lime in the lake, and in fact it was this algae bloom, which was very unusual, which hadn't occurred in a number of years, certainly not while I've been on the council, but was not something which was unidentifiable to our experts. It seems that the algae situation has gotten better since it was identified as problematic, but we want to be proactive in the event that there is a problem. We'd like to get the resolution in place, and if council feels more comfortable, you know, I can certainly contact council president before any monies are spent in advance of spending the money to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. But we'd like to have the ability to treat it if it's necessary.
And this is coming out of open space funds, right?
Open
Correct.
space.
And there's more than enough in there for it?
We wouldn't be able to spend it if there wasn't enough money in there.
And it's not going to impact any other future projects?
I don't think
No,
we're talking about a considerable amount of money.
No, the estimate is actually around $3,000. If it was a normal line item, we wouldn't be seeking approval. It would be within our purchasing regulations, but since it's open space, we need a resolution appropriating those funds.
I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with it.
Not at all.
All right. Okay, we're on to our first public portion. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none. We will be going into executive session. Mr. Perkins, would you be so kind?
Yes, Mr. President, in accordance with Section 7 and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, I make a motion we move into executive session for the discussion of BASF property negotiations.
Can I get a second?
Second, sir.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Note that the minutes of this meeting will be made available upon the conclusion of the item.
Anyone opposed? Meeting of August 7th, 2012. dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. Lisa, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act announcement?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Mount Olive Township, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call?
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mr. Frante?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here.
Mr. Walsh? Mrs. Laybow? Mr. Roman?
Here. Okay, we're on to approval of previous minutes. Mr. Perkins?
Yes, Mr. President, I move for the approval of the July 24, 2012 workshop and public meeting.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, we're on to correspondence. There are 25 pieces of correspondence. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, there are no ordinances for public hearing or first reading. So we're going to go on to the consent resolutions. There are 14 resolutions.
Right, with the one we're adding.
The one that was just added was regarding the algae of the
Right.
lake. Does anyone wish to remove any to non-consent? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Mania?
Mr. President, I move for the approval of the consent resolutions 1 through 14.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call?
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, we're on to consent motions. Mr. Prati, the bill list.
I move the bill list. I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Does anyone from public have any questions on the bill list? Any counsel? Okay, roll call?
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Frante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes. Okay, we're on to administrative reports. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Canning?
I'll start. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Canning, who has advised me that he passed the QPA exam,
Congratulations.
which ultimately will allow us, if the council decides to do that, to once again raise our bid threshold, which I think has been very successful to date since last time we raised it. There certainly have been no abuses. It allows the township to act much more quickly and I think much more cost effectively. In addition, I know that the Recreation Department is moving forward with a bicycle event or a series of bicycle events which are going to occur in Mount Olive on September the 30th, including Tour de Mount Olive, which is a 26-mile ride for those who are interested, and there are other events as well. I am going to introduce or at least read a proclamation next week declaring September 30th as Bicycle Day in Mount Olive, and I encourage everyone to promote this day. I think it's a good event, whether or not you participate formally in what the Recreation Department is doing or informally just by getting out on a bicycle on that day. I think it will both promote wellness and the spirit of what we're trying to move forward here in Mount Olive. Sean, did you have anything? Oh, yes. As we all know, unfortunately, we lost 2 members of the Mount Olive community this week. We lost Janine, Colleen's daughter, who died way too early. I know that most of us attended the wake and have been dealing with issues related to helping the family out. And also, unfortunately, we lost Ray Kammerer, who was formerly in our Public Works Department, and his wake was on Monday. Funeral services were, I guess, today. And it's very sad. Hopefully, we won't have to announce the loss of any other Mount Olive family members. If you have a chance, you can see in the lobby, we have pictures of both Janine and Ray as a tribute to their spirit and their contributions to Mount Olive.
Thank you. Just I want to touch on the bike event that you had mentioned. The route I know is not officially up on, but there's, the route was leaked, and when a resident, when I mentioned to them that it was on River Road, They ask which way, uphill or downhill. It's uphill.
It's both, I think.
And so there's going to be much chagrining going up that hill. And I, for one, plan to attend, and I hope some of my fellow council members would be on there.
I ride up River Road all the time. It's a very difficult climb, but the sense of accomplishment and the endorphins that one generates by getting up that hill are worth every single pedal step. Joe.
Yes, thank you. I have trouble driving up there.
I'm pushing the pedal too, it's only one.
It's tough.
You know what, as I said, if you can't join the tour, you can still get your bicycle out on that day and ride someplace, and you will have accomplished that which we are trying to move forward.
And I applaud I applaud the administration for not only this event, the past events, and all the future events that are making, helping to bring the community together. Anything else on administrative? Okay. We're on to our first old business. Our last old business. And nobody? New business. Okay, legal matters.
I have nothing.
Okay. And as far as recreation, I'm sure most of us recall the $10 fee that we've assessed the sports organizations that use the park. There has been a request to include some other organizations that do not use the park, and there's been opposition to that, so that's going to be, the Recreation Advisory Committee will be having a meeting on that, so we may see in the near future requests to add additional groups towards that fee, so just preparing you when that comes across. All right, Board of Health, Mr. Perkins.
Yes, Mr. President, we held a special public meeting specifically to have second reading for ordinance Board of Health 1-2012, which everyone should have in their packets, on the massage parlors and somatic therapy. A lot of effort went in by all of the board members, the police department, and the health department in drafting up and getting this ordinance finalized. I believe it goes a long way in hopefully changing what some have found to be displeasurable with these places.
Unfortunately, there's been too much promulgation of those establishments. Okay, legislative, do you have anything, Mr. Perkins?
Yeah, I have I've gotten in touch with Senator Arrojo and Assemblyman Chisano. I'm trying to set up a meeting. Senator Arrojo was on a vacation, on a cruise with his mother, which was nice. So I'm hopeful to get together with them either the end of this week or next. I want them to follow up with the Board of Public Utilities to see how we're making out on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund issue, as far as doing anything with incentivizing homeless solutions, should that go forward as our COA item of choice.
And while you're in that meeting, if you wouldn't mind tugging his ear regarding the DEP, the DOT regarding the sign on 46 for the CVS. It's that, even up to this day, I'm still seeing people that make that left turn into CVS illegally instead of doing it at the jug handle, and unfortunately, we have not been, according to Mr. Kenning's memo, we've been having a hard time getting a response from DOT. He had reached out to Senator Oracle's office, so if you wouldn't be so kind, also, touch base on that also.
I would be happy to do that, Mr. President. I'd also like to talk to him. I think the entire stretch of Route 46, not unlike the highways. I mean, if we look at now what's the BP station, which was the Delta. I mean, we had people making the left-hand turn by George's Liquors to go into the Delta station when all they had to do was go a lousy 1/16 of a mile, and they could have turned into the one that they were already traveling in that direction. I think we need some signage out there that kind of directs people that there's a U-turn or gas, to exit Netcong Road and to make that U-turn to come back across. It'll be safer. I think we need to do this all the way along. Ironically enough, traveling down Route 31, when you get in through Pennington, that entire stretch of 2-mile stretch there's absolutely no left-hand turn after you go through Pennington before you get down to Route 295. And it's a 2-mile stretch, and it's 2 lanes on each side, same as Route 46 is. but no left turns are permitted for that entire 2-mile stretch. And that may be something that I think that, we need to sit down with the DOT and maybe Sergeant Van Ness. I don't know if he's going to be doing anything for us, or our new traffic police officer. And we really got to come up with something a little bit better for Route 46. I understand Connolly, we're going to have them go out the back to Morris Chase, but that doesn't stop people from going into the arcade or making the left into the Deltas or, to the Bud Lake Diner or any other place along Route 46, including places like your shop. People, they have to make a turn to get into business. Is there a better way? Should they not go down to the CVS to Mount Olive Road or Sand Shore, make the U-turn to come back? Maybe that's safer. At least give the motoring public out there the signage that lets them know that there is an alternative to making the left.
Now, this sounds like something that maybe should be at least spoken about at the safety committee.
Yes.
I'll
be getting with Mr. DeCastro in a not too distant future.
All right, Mr. Walsh is not here, so there's no planning board, no board of ed. Open space, Mr. Ferrante?
Nothing for open space. We already spoke about the lake and environment issues. The library board is currently planning their fall festival, and they're looking for volunteers as well as any vendors for crafts.
Mr. DeCastro, safety?
Yeah, we had a meeting last week. It was a short meeting, but they're working with the county on a new system, Everbridge Aware System, which allows for communications. It's free from the county, unlimited messaging, groups and lists of stuff they can set up for emergencies and stuff, which is great. They're working with the radio frequencies. They have some shortening to do of the codes on there, I believe. I did mention, Mr. President, your request about the old Wolf Road. Their first concern was that it was a safety issue to do that, but they would look into it because they use that route a lot for police and fire to come up off of that road, and that would be the biggest concern they have, but they will look into it.
Mr. Mayor, you had something? Rob?
Oh, I'm sorry. Going back to the Board of Education, I don't know if you've heard that Dr. Tracy Severance is leaving Mount Olive.
Yep.
To the state.
Well,
I for one am not surprised, and I'm just the only thing I would add is what took that so long. I was waiting to see who was going to snatch her up. It is definitely going to be a sad day for Mount Olive, especially for the middle school that should be sorely missed. I for one was glad that she never became the superintendent because any budget she presented would have passed overwhelmingly. Okay. Anything for economic development?
No meeting yet, no.
Okay. Mr. Maynard, Sr.?
None.
And Ms. Labo is not present. And I forgot to mention that football season has started August 1st. The young gentlemen were out there hitting. So pretty soon we'll be, football season will be in full force. Mr. Mayor.
To add on to that, I was at Turkey Brook playing basketball yesterday. After I played basketball, I took a ride back to the back football field, which is now open and available by automobile. And there is a parking lot back there, and it is incredible if you go back there to see how the use of that field has expanded Turkey Brook twofold in terms of how much more land we're using of the original park that was set out. And I encourage everyone, when you're at or around Turkey Brook, to take a ride through. You can see the progress of the turf field, which is nearing completion of the sub-base, and the actual surface will be put down, I guess, relatively shortly, within the next week or two. They're going to start that process. And to take a ride back at the top of the loop on the road, which is now there, back to the football field, it is an incredible sight to see so much more of the park being utilized.
Yeah, no, I for one did not take motorized transportation, but it is amazing, and I look forward to when we clear out the side to the left. On the turf field that we're building, hindsight being what it is, it would have been nice if we'd taken pictures in multiple stages to connect it, because it's amazing how it's getting put together. All right, we're on to our last public portion. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard?
Ned McDonald, Bud Lake. This is a question for the mayor. In a previous council meeting, you raised the issue about a new sign in front of the municipal building, and you stated that it would probably cost around $50,000. Is that still an active idea being considered?
Yes, it is. It's in the research stage. Thanks to Councilman John Mania, who has done a lot of the legwork in terms of the installation, the concrete, the brickwork. That cost will be significantly less. And the comparison ultimately between what it's going to cost us to put in that type of sign and a wooden sign will be relatively close. Certainly much closer than it was before, and certainly a lot less than the original estimate, which included all of the other work that would have necessarily had to have been done. But before that decision is made, it will be discussed at a public meeting. It will be discussed with council. Council will approve whatever recommendation comes out of the mayor's office, but the costs have certainly come a lot closer together, in large part to the work that Councilman Mania has done to date. But it's not something which one day you're going to show up at Town Hall and the sign's going to be there. In fact, I'm going to ask Lisa Lashway, because I know it's an important issue to you, to contact you in the event that the issue is going to be discussed at a council meeting, so you can be here and participating.
Very good, because I'm not opposed to the sign. I'm just opposed to
cost.
a large amount of public funds that would be needed to do it.
I
And
understand.
if it can be done by donations by some groups, I think that would be great.
Well, we're working in that direction. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where it's going to be a sign which is going to be completely paid for by donation. But as I said, before this issue is addressed and the sign is installed, it will be discussed at a public meeting. It will be agreed upon by a majority of council, and you will be notified that it's on that particular day. Because, as I said, it's not the first time you've come up here to speak about that issue. And I welcome your participation in the concept.
Okay.
Albeit it may be contrary to the position that I take. Okay. That's what makes the world go round.
That's okay. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Is anyone else from the
If I
public?
could just add to that,
Yes.
not only did I do legwork, but Sean has been working
Lisa.
with me and doing a lot of help.
Frank Volker Jr.
Sean.
All right, if there's no one else from the public, we're on to council comments. Mr. Perkins.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Maynard?
Nothing.
Mr.
Nope,
Franz?
nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. And I don't want to buck the trend. I have nothing. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
No, so moved.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting adjourned.